Hey everybody, I want to share something kind of interesting with you guys tonight. I happened to listen to that whole Mahatma letters. It's dealing with the letters that were produced by these advanced, so-called advanced people, and these letters were produced and Blavatsky received them from them. Now, if you haven't watched the documentary that I have in my recent playlist, go ahead and watch the documentary. There was a lot of people that tried to frame her, and one of the things that they did was they cut a hole behind this pouch where she received those letters to make it look like somebody was feeding the letters through there, but that's not actually the case. They did that to frame her, and so what the deal is that when I started listening to the Mahatma letters, and what I was hearing described was very, very similar to what we hear described in the old teachings of Plato regarding the demiurge. Now, the demiurge is mind, and the demiurge was framed after the human being. And so when we take a look into the cosmos and we look at the Orion Nebula, for example, we can actually get a lot of information from that when we relate it to the human being himself. And now what I'm showing you right here are some of the rock formations that you've probably seen, are these stones that are put together with this precision. You can't even stick a knife in between them. But if you've actually watched the revelation of the pyramid, you know that, for example, when you see stuff like this, at first they thought, well, these guys were just trying to save space, and so they just cut them together the way that they could, until they found that they were mirrored on both sides exactly the same. There's places, and I can't find them in here, but you can find it in the revelation of the pyramids, but you can find that there's areas where these particular stones that you see right here, what you see as far as the pattern goes is actually mirrored on both sides of a hallway, for example. That means that there's something else going on here. And you know, from initiation of the pyramid with Manly P. Hall, the tomb of Hermes, which was actually the pyramid itself, was supposed to be a symbol of the universal mind. Well, the universal mind turns out to be the demiurge, and the demiurge has a very specific way that he creates things. So let me play this for you real quick.
Because of the very nature of the topic, he announces that he will only be able to present, as he puts it, a likely story or plausible account. The reason for his limited ambition is that he will be dealing with the physical cosmos. It is, he says, a realm of change and becoming, and thus is susceptible only to opinion. Certainty and knowledge apply only to the world of true being, the forms. As I said last time, old-fashioned Platonism seems to be alive and well here in the Timaeus. Something else that is alive and well is the physical universe itself. Timaeus begins his account by saying that the demiurge, being good, wanted to create the best universe possible. He thus decided that the universe should itself be a living being with a soul, and should imitate, insofar as is possible, the form of living being. To put it another way, the universe turns out to be an animal that is designed as a copy of the form of animal.
Okay, now, so what to gather out of this is the following. So when the demiurge creates something, according to the old Platonic philosophies, and you got to remember that Plato received his mysteries from Egypt in Sais. So the idea is that the demiurge pulls from this world of archetypes. So if you can imagine or visualize in your head a particular form or archetype, you're going to visualize that in your head, and then from that archetype you create things in the physical universe. So the demiurge does this, and we've seen it on a cosmic scale, and there is evidence that the same archetype is used not only in the Orion Nebula, but as we can also see, and is also verified by the Kabbalists, that the Earth exhibits the same form as what we see in the Orion Nebula. And more than likely there are other places that exhibit the same form also. So it's pulled from this abstract area called the world of the forms, and then it is somehow produced in the physical universe. So things are drawn together. Well, now when we think of a plasmoid inside of the trapezium of the Orion Nebula, And what we've actually seen is that from the Thunderbolts project and from these things actually pull the waters together. They will pull this matter together. And we also see it described in the esoteric teachings from Blavatsky's Secret Doctrine, that he raises his voice and he draws all of these sparks of atoms together and they aggregate and they form things. Now all this is really important because if we take a look at this on the human side, or the human scale of things, it's very possible that the humans can do the same thing, and apparently the esoteric texts, as well as something I'm going to play for you, seems to back this up as well. Right here from Isis Unveiled, we see this. As God creates, so man can create, given a certain intensity of will, and the shapes created by the mind become subjective. Hallucinations, as they are called, although to their creator they are very real as any object is to anyone else. Given a more intense and intelligent concentration of this will, and the form becomes concrete, visible, objective, the man has learned the secrets of secrets. He is a magician. So this is what we see in Isis Unveiled. This is also describing the same thing that we would see from the ancient Platonic things, where we have the world of ideas and forms being brought into the physical universe. Now, when we think of the Egyptian pyramids, the Great Pyramid was considered a symbol of the universal mind, and the universal mind is the demiurge. And what it seems to focus on, for example, is the pineal gland, but that is something has to do with the mind's eye. So if you can imagine visualizing something in your head, and then at that point somehow creating something physically, it's very possible that somehow technology like that, or some kind of a teaching like that, a long time ago, was used in aiding the construction of the pyramids. Listen to what I have right here that I found from the Mahatma letters.
Materialized before his eyes. If Mahatma, let's say, sits down to dictate a letter, and first of all, in his mind's eye, he composes the letter, so let's say a page at a time. So he's composed a page and he's now written it with his mind's eye. Now he has to copy that through this process of precipitation. And what he does then is to draw materials from the psychic world around him which flesh out that archetype that he has.
This sounds very similar to what we would think of when we think of the central sun inside the Orion Nebula. We have the image of a brain up there. It's pulling from the idea of world, from the world of forms and ideas, and now it's using the existing matter that we have in the universe, and it's creating these particular spheres or archetypes that it's had in its head or in its mind, is actually producing them in the physical universe based on that particular archetype. They're never exactly the same as the particular archetype in his head, yet they are all similar enough to where we can see that they are the same thing. For example, one person's brain isn't exactly the same as another person's brain, or his hand is the same as another person's hand, but they all have the archetype similar as far as hand goes, or as far as brain goes. So if I were to give you, for example, say a clump of clay, and I were to say, okay, construct the world and its formations on this clay. If that's all you have to do, if that's all you have in front of you, then you would create the archetype of what you see on the earth with that clay. And although it would not be the exact same picture of what you see as earth, it would be the closest representation based on what you had. Well, this is what he's describing right here that these Mahatmas do. Let me back it up just a little bit.
He composes the letter, so let's say a page at a time. So he's composed a page and he's now written it with his mind's eye. Now he has to copy that through this process of precipitation. And what he does then is to draw materials from the psychic world around him which flesh out that archetype that he has created. And so if you think of the analogy of magnet with a magnetic field and iron filings, you probably get as good an image as you're going to get. Analogy of a magnet with a magnetic field and iron filings, you probably get as good an image as you're going to get. He has created the archetype, the pattern, the shape, and now he's using substance around him, rather like we would sprinkle iron filings on a piece of paper to show magnetic lines of force, to fill out or flesh out the actual thing itself.
So I find this really interesting because this matches what he's describing here. Is he's describing ancient Platonic philosophy. He's describing the process that the universal mind uses in order to produce something. The pyramids were the symbol of universal mind, and so is it possible that the pyramids were constructed using some of this type of teaching as well? It is a visualization that occurs in the mind to such a degree, to such an intensity, that one can see it perfectly in their mind's eye, and then somehow some process is used in order to draw things around from the physical world in order to produce whatever it is that they want to produce. Anyway, just a thought. I thought I would bring that out to you guys. Y'all take care, and I'll talk to you soon.